The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
So who pre-ordered the child puppet?
I did not. I as much as I do have, I can't turn him around, but I do have a life-size Yoda that was given to us as a wedding gift, and my wife came downstairs one night and he was in the living room and his eyes are glossy, so they kind of shine, and that was the end of it. She said he cannot stay in the living room, so he's been relegated to my studio ever since.
Oh.
Cool.
So we have a lot of news this week, Jeff?
We do have some news, and we'll get into the Oscar stuff at the back end of the news.
So we want to start?
We got to start. I know.
We got to actually start the show, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome. I can't help.
So what do we got? We got to get into the news. We
we do have news. What are we actually talking about?
Yeah, before we actually begin the news, today's episode has an aviary theme to it.
Oh, well, the bird.
It is our moral duty, whenever a comic book movie is out, to watch it and bring you our results. So we are covering Birds of Prey. Some of us were less excited to see it than others. We committed, and we
did commit, and we should be committed.
And we decided to go very obscure.
Took my library 2 weeks to get this thing.
Now, this is like the annals of Disney history. This is right up there with The Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes. Is that the name of that movie?
Oh, that was Kurt Russell. That was Kurt Russell, though.
That was Kurt Russell, yeah.
Damn
He's
straight
got
it was.
oeuvre in Disney history.
That's right.
Condorman. So you see what we did there? Birds of Prey, Condorman.
Wow, we're so clever. So anyways, all right, so that's our feature, but let's get into some news. When we're recording this is Sunday morning, Oscars. So at the back end, we'll talk a little bit about our predictions, and it's already happened. But
I bet that
we'll
half the people that hear this won't even remember on Wednesday who won Best Picture.
True. That's true. They'll be like, oh, he was right. But let's start out with, unfortunately, we lost a couple big guys this week. Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
But he's 103, so you really can't. That's a hell of a life right there. 103 years old.
He had a stroke, so yes, there was difficulty communicating, but his mind was there when he would show up at award shows and
he still spoke his mind.
Yeah,
he was still out in the. Now that was a while ago too, right? He had a stroke.
Yeah, it was.
It's
a number of years ago. Yeah.
And then Robert Conrad of Baba Black Sheep. Well, he's famous for the
Battle of the Network Stars.
Battle of the Network Stars. We're showing our age on that one, but yes.
Yes, famous for, I guess somebody finally did knock that battery off his shoulder. Yeah.
Well, eventually, when you get older, your shoulders sag, and then it just kind of rolls off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was his. That was a Duracell commercial, right?
It was.
I dare you to knock this off. 84. And then this other gentleman, Orson Bean. Do we know who he was?
Amazingly tragic what happened.
Yeah, 91 years old. Didn't die of old age. He got hit by a car. Horrible.
That's horrible.
So that was kind of some sad news. So we'll do the in memoriam up front. We did that. In sadder news, the CW has announced that they are planning on adapting the Lost Boys into a TV series. And I see Christina already shaking her head. Everything old is new again, right? Every week it's something else.
As they're casting, they're going through their 8x10s of model turn actors, I'm sure, at the CW, like they do for every show.
It's so frustrating because I'm not averse to someone remaking something if they can bring something really fresh and new to it. Like a good example actually is John Carpenter's The Thing, which comes from the same source material as the Howard Hawks movie, but it's completely different. Or like David Cronenberg's The Fly, right? That's a remake.
Right, yeah, no.
But it's a completely different kind of movie. It's a completely different kind of experience. Like, what is the CW going to bring to Lost wise.
Well, I can't wait for that Riverdale crossover. That would be awesome,
Yeah.
right? Actually, I'm on board if they bring in Kiefer Sutherland as the grumpy grandfather, who all along you didn't realize until the very end of the movie that he was very aware that there were vampires.
Right. I mean, that would be fun if they
Yeah.
did that. But I don't know. I think
it's not enough to save it.
I think
It's not for us though. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, their target audience is not
clearly not for us.
No, correct. but yet they're riding on a property that we're very familiar with, and maybe younger kids have never even been exposed to it. Another one, Disney live action, Lilo and Stitch. Hannah meets family. We got nothing, right? We got nothing
Do
on
not
this.
understand why.
I don't know.
I
We're
do
going to
not-
talk about Lilo and Stitch too, because but I just don't see live actors being cast as those characters, even the human counterparts, because the look and the style established by those characters is so unique within the Disney pantheon that I just don't see a human actor being able to carry that through. And of course, obviously, you're going to have a CG Stitch. I don't know.
So is this theatrical or is this Disney Plus? Is this going to do
This sounds like it's going right to Disney Plus, but that doesn't mean they're going to not dump a ton of dollars on it. If it's
Right.
exclusive on Disney Plus, name the last Disney movie that's come out that hasn't been Star Wars, Marvel, or a Pixar property.
Well, I mean, the Frozen was there.
Frozen,
Was Disney's
Well,
property.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
fine. So you got me on that one. That was their own property. Fine. Shut Jeff down in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Speaking of Disney Plus, did you guys hear about Iger's phone call this week?
That's next on my news, so go right
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, so he said that, first of all, that they had 26.5 million subscribers already, which is, you know, those are really good numbers for a new streaming service. And he also announced some of the release dates for these Marvel shows that we've all been
Mm-hmm.
waiting for. Falcon and the Winter Soldier for August. Mandalorian season 2 in October, and then WandaVision in December.
Mm.
So back end of 2020 is going to be busy for us kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I'm very excited that they're bringing back the character of Baron Zemo for Falcon Winter Soldier. He obviously was the bad guy of Civil War, but he was very much behind the scenes. So I'm
Right,
hoping
correct,
he,
yeah.
steps up.
I actually thought you were talking about his phone call apologizing that Disney slapped a $250 fine on a local California elementary school for screening Lion King at a fundraiser. It was a fundraiser. Somebody ratted them out, and a month or 2 months after the fact, they got a cease and desist and demanded a $250 fine for licensing.
I'm sure that's like an automatic letter. You know, I mean, I don't think
But
that
who
it was.
ratted them out? What?
Yeah, I mean, like, who was the jerk who said something?
Right. Dude, did you get a licensing right for this?
Yeah.
That might have been me. I don't. But anyways, Iger did come out and he apologized, and he did donate personal funds to the cause.
Did he?
The school paid. They said, listen, you know, we had no idea. You know, one of the parents owned it on disc. I mean, as kids, how many times did we have movie night in school? I remember them showing, you know, Hot Lead and Cold Feet or the Apple Dumpling Gang. I'd have movie night in my Cub Scouts. We bring in a movie and throw it up on a big screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably because money was involved, even if it was for a fundraiser. Because I remember also seeing all the Disney movies, like, you know, on Friday, you know, like the
Right.
Friday before a holiday or something, they would bring us all into the gym and we'd watch like Freaky Friday or something.
Right, yeah.
But I think probably it has to do with like exhibiting for profit.
I guess they rectified it. He apologized. And then my last news item, which is Scott Derrickson, who is on tap to direct Doctor Strange 2, has backed out, and now it looks like, and you just brought up Army of Darkness, Jim. Sam Raimi is in talks to direct this thing, and they've been talking about it being a little more horror-driven, so maybe not a bad call.
And just the implication that we might get a Spider-Man Sam Raimi reunion at some point. I don't know if it would happen in this, but if Sam Raimi is being introduced into the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe, anything's possible, right? And I think he'd be perfect for Doctor Strange.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, like they've gone on record that they want this to be a little more horror-driven, and there were definitely signs of that in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
I had a kid behind me who was crying, Dad, I don't like this. The whole scene where Doc Ock's arms are killing off the all the surgeons, and the kid's crying. He's like, "Dad, I don't like this." He goes, "Shut your eyes, shut your eyes." I'm like, take the kid out of the theater.
Right,
Come
I know.
on.
You know, that is so recognizably Raimi, that scene.
Yes. Right.
Anybody that's familiar with Evil Dead.
So who do you think Bruce Campbell's going to play? Because obviously he's coming into everything. So yeah, that's a full circle thing. That'd be very interesting. And that's really all my news I have. But again, let's kind of talk. We're on the cusp. We're sitting out the red carpet right now. We're waiting. I saw live last night. It's a day before. And
what, they were already
at the red carpet waiting.
Were they unrolling? Were they unrolling the red carpet?
No, I think they were interviewing the guy who was vacuuming it. I don't know what was going on. But do we want to make predictions? Do we want to go down this road? I know who we want in certain categories, but we all know this is a very political.
I mean, especially for Best Picture. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware they have a different voting system just for Best Picture.
Okay, and that is?
So for everything else, it's sort of like a straight vote. Like for Best Actor, you just pick who you want, right? Joaquin Phoenix, whatever, who's probably going to win.
That's my choice as well.
Yeah. But for Best Picture, they use like a ranking system. So there's 9 Best Picture nominees this year, and every Academy member ranks all the films in the order that they liked them the best, basically from 1 through 9. The Academy then takes all these votes, looks at all the choices for number 1, tabulates the votes, and if no one picture got more than 50% of the votes, they look at whatever film got the least amount of number 1 votes. That film gets removed from the pool, and all of the number 2 votes from people who voted for that picture would bump up. And
my head's already hurting.
So what happens, I mean, if you just break it down, let's have 3 people, right? So one person picks Parasite number 1, one person picks Ford versus Ferrari number 1, one person picks Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as number 1. Okay? None of those votes adds up to 50%. Let's say they all picked 1917 as their second choice. So all their number 1 votes are removed, and now 1917 moves up as their number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So this is how I think sometimes not necessarily the best picture gets chosen every year. It's more like, you know, because it's almost like a consensus they're trying to reach with these votes. You know, so it's not necessarily the most interesting, the most daring, the most, you know, cinematic picture that gets chosen, but the one that sort of offends the least number of people.
Not only that, like I have a subscription to the Hollywood Reporter, and every issue, sometimes there's whole issues that are just devoted to for your consideration.
Right.
I mean, they take out massive amounts, and you have to think half these people are not even watching these movies in the theater. They're watching screenings at home. You know, they're getting a screener delivered to their house. They're watching it on disc. Now, probably a lot of them have nice sound systems and, you know, theaters, home theater systems, but still, like 1917, it's a movie you need to experience in a theater. But yeah, it's political, and unfortunately, that sounds like a horrible way to pick them.
It is. It's completely, and it just seems like, because we were talking about early in the week this anonymous voter who was just going off on our favorite movies that are nominated for Best Picture and why she's not voting for them. Parasite in particular, because it was a foreign movie, she wasn't going to vote for it, and it shouldn't be lumped in with regular movies.
Yeah.
Right. And no, it is right. It's
so this is what you're
nominated
faced
for
with.
Best Picture and Best Foreign Language.
And I'm sure
picture.
this attitude is not an anomaly. People have their biases. They're not looking at something for the best movie. They're looking at something that they want to like. You have the older generation obviously gravitating towards something like 1917 more so than a Parasite.
You know, it's been interesting because I've been reading a number of these, like, you know, Oscar insiders pick blah blah, and what's surprising to me is how many of them love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Why do they love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Because it's about Hollywood.
Right, because it glorifies their... Yeah.
Right, it's about themselves, and I don't even know anyone who's seen that.
I know, I'm not going to say that. I have not seen it either. I know. And you have to figure, so, there's a lot that goes into this. So anyways, do we want to...
Yeah, let's speculate.
Let's
give it a try.
Well, all right. So anyways, we'll start with Best Actor, since you already threw out Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to win.
I think I agree. Again,
well, I think all of these categories gets momentum over the various award shows that pop up from the Golden Globes onward.
To the
and
SAG,
people, whoever wins that and then wins the SAG, and I think there's a mindset. Well, maybe I should be paying attention to Joaquin Phoenix, and then he just steamrolls through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think anybody it's pretty easy, I think, for a pundit to predict who's going to win rather than who they would like to win.
Or think
you just look at who else has won all the other awards, and that's probably who's going to win the Oscar.
I think there isn't any other, especially in the Best Actor category, I don't think there's any other performance that stands out the same way. Again, like Jeff was talking about, where politics come into it, like Joaquin Phoenix has been around for a long time. He's a really well-known actor. He's turned in a lot of performances. I mean, sometimes the Oscars aren't just awarding the current performance.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
They're rewarding a body of work and saying, like, maybe we should have given it to you for this other film.
Yeah, but we're not. But we're going to rectify that by giving it to you now, and that's sad. That's I mean, you got DiCaprio's in the same category right now.
Right, but everyone's going to say, well, he got one already.
Correct. Yes.
But Joaquin Phoenix hasn't.
No,
so like that stuff comes into play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you remember when Joaquin Phoenix won the Golden Globe, he gave a rambling, borderline incoherent speech, and that ended with him attacking everybody in the room for taking private jets to the award ceremony.
That makes me want to have it even more now.
It does, right? It does. But you would think that the industry would want to punish him for that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. So let's follow that with the Best Actress.
Again, I think politics are coming into play here. Like, if Renee Zellweger isn't a lock for Judy, I mean, I would be really astonished. She's playing a Hollywood legend.
Yeah. Which usually gets a little bit more.
Right. It's a transformative role.
Yeah.
She's sort of seen as, she had sort of dropped out of Hollywood for a while, and she's come back. So she's now sort of seen as like this person who didn't quit and, came back. And so there's a whole narrative, I think, behind her.
And she gets to purse her lips a lot, which she's really, really good at.
Well, I was leaning towards Scarlett Johansson only because she's also up for Best Supporting Actress. Mm-hmm. And so you got to reward her one or the other. So would she take that?
Marriage Story is about people in the industry, in this case Broadway, but it seems like that a lot of writers in Hollywood can only write
what they know
about people in their industry.
So that's why what you know.
What is his name, the director of Marriage Story? It's
Noah Baumbach.
That's the case with a lot of his movies. It's always very highly educated, upper middle class people that I never can relate to his movies. I never can.
Well, the slightly weird thing about Marriage Story, even getting this many award nominations, is so Noah Baumbach used to be married to Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yes.
And the movie is, ostensibly about his experience with his divorce from
There you go, right? What you know, right?
So
isn't that every Taylor Swift song? She
sort
breaks
of like
up with the boy and then writes
sort of lightly fictionalized. And so there is a little bit of weirdness, I think, about this film getting so many nominations in this industry, people who've worked with both of them. And then, like, to add another layer of weirdness, his current partner is Greta Gerwig, who is nominated for Best Director for Little Women, so their films are up against each other in a lot of categories.
All right.
What a dilemma. What a terrible life
right?
they both lead, right?
And meanwanwhile, the goodie bags are like $1 billion worth of crap.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, he's writing his next film about two competing Oscar nominees.
That we can so relate to.
Yes, I know. We'll line up for that one.
Where am I going to put my Oscar?
Yeah.
Keep it on the fridge. So let's go Best Picture before we go Best Director.
For Best Picture, I would love Parasite to win, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because it is nominated in Best Foreign Film.
And that's, obviously you guys know my heart is with Parasite. Mm-hmm. But I think that 1917 will win simply because it will probably be, if not a lot of people's first choice, it'll be their second choice. And when I was talking about the voting system, that's how a movie like 1917 can
kind of
right.
Win.
So if Parasite and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood splits the number one vote, then and everybody votes number two for 1917, which would be my number two as well.
Right.
There you go.
See, right. Do you feel that too? That 1917 will take, Jim?
Yeah, I do. Wholeheartedly.
I would love to see Jojo Rabbit. I don't think it's going to happen at all.
No.
But I think 1917 is going to that's where you're probably your director, best director, and you're going to get a lot of technical achievements in that. I don't know. I think that somehow they're going to reward Scorsese with The Irishman, but that's just my guess.
For Best Picture?
Yeah.
For Best Picture? I don't think there's enough momentum behind that movie.
No. Okay.
You know,
I want to be a dissident in a group here. I'm just... Listen, if we wake up tomorrow morning, Jeff was a genius. They're like, yeah, you're idiot. You should have just listened to these two. So all right, Best Director then. So are we thinking Sam Mendes?
I think that Sam Mendes is not a lock in this category.
Okay.
This is like a place where the Academy has deviated from sort of the norm in the past, you know, like giving Ang Lee the Best Director for Brokeback Mountain, then it didn't win Best Picture.
Right.
And I think too that I think Sam Mendes percentage-wise probably has the best chance of winning, but I think Bong Joon-ho or Quentin Tarantino could be a spoiler in this category. I think especially if they don't reward Once Upon a Time in Hollywood anywhere else.
Right.
I think he might get it here.
Yeah.
But I would like Bong Joon-ho to win.
I have it split between Bong Joon-ho and Sam Mendes. Yeah,
I just don't want to see a speech from Quentin Tarantino, because whenever I see him, I see Madam. Remember Waylon Flowers and Madam?
Oh, yeah.
All I see is this puppet going, it's like the Peanuts grown-up characters whenever Quentin Tarantino.
So there you go, folks. Those are our predictions. How'd we do?
Wait, I didn't give my Best Director
you didn't?
Yet.
Sorry, Jim. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Just steamroll all over me.
All right.
But no, I would say that I agree that the Best Director category is where the Academy gets the chance to surprise us. But I think that they're going to be looking at Mendes more than anybody else, just because of the whole rigmarole around the long cuts of 1917 and what have you. So I would love Bong Joon-ho to win. You know, I would stand up and applaud if he did. Yeah. But I think that they're going to give both picture and director this year to 1917.
Fair.
I think we know who's going to win the best cinematography.
Yeah, right. And best animated feature, Missing Link, baby. Ride that all the way to the bank.
I'd like to see them win.
I would love to see Leica, only to make up for that Kubo debacle that I bring up every time.
But I think too, again, like this is a category where a lot of Academy voters probably don't even go and see the films that are nominated, and they're just going to pick something that's recognizable. You know, I'm not trying to take anything away from Toy Story 4, but if Toy Story 4 doesn't win, I'll be kind of surprised. It's a very good movie, you know, but is it the best animated film? Maybe not.
So, all right. So there you go. That's a long-winded news Oscar prediction. So
news out?
News out.
Birds of Prey. So as you know, as we've already said, we're recording this on Sunday. So this movie has been out 2 days. 3 if you count Thursday night previews, right?
Yep.
Already we're seeing articles that it is a box office bomb of Jonah Hex proportions.
What?
Yeah.
Jonah Hex? Wow, that's that's bad company, my friend. Oh man.
Yeah, they were projecting 55 million opening weekend.
No, that's when they project that. That's just their fingers crossed that's what.
Absolutely.
But
that's what they project it, and that's what they expect once they project. So, and if it does anything less than that, then they don't see it as a success. They've lowered those expectations considerably. They're thinking if it does 33, it'll be lucky.
I was just going to say that, you know, I saw this yesterday morning at 11 a.m. My theater was showing it like around the clock. There was more screenings than I think Rise of Skywalker. And there was 11 a.m., which is pretty early on a Saturday. But there was only like maybe 7 other people in there at the most.
Yeah, I saw it Friday night, 7 o'clock, your main viewing time for a new movie, and maybe 15, 20 people in the theater.
Really?
Yeah, we went Friday morning at 11, and the same thing as Jeff, where there was only like 8 or 9 people in the theater. And you could say, okay, well, it was Friday morning, but I live in a city, and even, you know, midday morning shows on a weekday, if the film is popular, it can fill up. So I was surprised. Yeah, I think that there weren't more people in the theater I also was confused about where the studio chose to place this film on the calendar. I couldn't figure out if they were trying to make it succeed or if they set it up to fail.
To dump it. Yeah.
You know, because February is traditionally like where movies go to die.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. That is true.
although like these comic book movies, I think the
Well-
studios with Infinity War and Endgame, they're releasing these big movies earlier and earlier. I think
Oh,
it started with Iron Man, right? When you got that breakout success with the first Iron
March,
Man.
I think that was March.
Yeah,
but even like
it was
look at the
pretty early.
Deadpool movies. The Deadpool movies, I think, both dropped around this time as well. And there's a lot of parallels to this.
I think I saw one trailer for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you're
Well,
watching.
depending on what you're watching, every movie that we've reviewed, I think in the past since October, November, I've seen a trailer for this. So
Yeah.
I've seen many. Of the same
They
trailer.
showed a trailer before the movie for this movie.
Yeah.
What?
it's
Are you serious?
I saw the trailer before the movie, and I'm like, stop showing me.
Because remember,
No,
when we,
I already paid my ticket.
remember
I'm
when we
seeing it.
saw It Part 2, there was an It related Birds of Prey trailer. Pops a red balloon and says, "I'm over clowns." And,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I
Oh,
think
that's
that
right.
was the first one.
Yeah, you're right. But like my niece, 13-year-old, and she loves Harley Quinn, but because of the DC superhero girls cartoon.
Yes.
And my sisters actually had to sit her down because she really wanted to watch Suicide Squad and explain to her that, you know, Harley Quinn by nature is not a nice character. I mean, they've really whitewashed her for the cartoon, but it's like a gateway drug for these kids. And I'm like, you watch it. This is a straight up rated R movie. You know, there's a lot of cursing going on. There's a lot of violence. Who are they really aiming this at?
I don't know, like, what they were thinking with the R rating, really, because it seems like they bumped out a huge portion of their potential audience.
Well,
by
they see
not giving it a
Deadpool, right?
Well, that's
They
what I'm
see-
saying.
They
There's
want
a
to
lot
go
of
the Deadpool route.
Yeah, you know, she's breaking the fourth wall. It's very. I mean, it is the first 40 minutes of this movie is straight up Wile E. Coyote cartoon mayhem. It's yeah, and she's breaking the fourth wall. She's narrating. She's talking to the audience. She's backtracking. It's very frenetic. And I had absolutely no anticipation. I
had no expectations going into this.
No, I didn't.
because-
Matter of fact, when we seized on it, I was kind of like.
Now I know Christina, and I know I can speak for myself that I haven't seen Suicide Squad.
Nor
and
do
I
you
have
need
no
to.
desire to see.
No,
Suicide
nor do you need
Squad.
to. You don't need to watch that in order
And
to
the character was established in Suicide Squad, but thankfully going into it, I wasn't missing anything. Now,
No.
I'm not a DC guy. I don't know the history of Harley Quinn.
I do.
So this
Well,
was
she
all
explained
new
it to you. She laid it right out for you in the opening cartoon.
Oh yeah,
sequence.
she did. But
Yeah.
that's why I had no expectations. Like I wasn't saying they better get her right. I'm here. I've had a tough week. Entertain me, please.
Yeah.
And I think on that score, Birds of Prey did succeed.
The thing about Harley Quinn is, so she's a character that was actually created for the Batman animated series.
Yes, number
She
12,
did-
which is
yes.
on average a $400 to $600 comic book right now.
But she did not exist before the animated series.
Correct.
So she was actually a character that was created for a kids show. Okay. So she was as violent as the Joker is on that show, I guess you would
Yeah,
say.
and that was pretty dark. The Batman animated series.
But the characterization, sort of since then has made her sort of increasingly more violent. The same way the characterizations of the Joker have gotten increasingly more violent over the last 30 years. And the thing with Harley Quinn, in my opinion, is that she's a character like Jack Sparrow, sort of best used judiciously. You don't want the whole film to be about Jack Sparrow.
Right.
This is why you enjoy the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean more than the last 2, right? Not just because they're better written or whatever, but because the character is just sort of used as seasoning, right?
Yeah.
So, and Harley Quinn is a character, I think, that's best used as a seasoning. Like, I was significantly more interested in the Birds of Prey characters than I was in Harley Quinn.
This is a little misleading.
Well, there's a Birds of Prey comic.
Yes.
Which is famously the most famous runs written by Gail Simone.
Right.
And I wish that they had gone back to the roots of these characters. And Birds of Prey have always teamed up with Oracle, Barbara Gordon.
Right, yeah.
For me, look, here's the thing. I am very invested in this movie doing well. because there
Mm-hmm.
are 4 women in the lead.
Yep.
There's a female director, there's a female producer, there's a female writer. If a female-driven film doesn't turn out well, everyone's like, well, it just means that nobody wants to go see movies with women in them.
Right, which is stupid. But yeah, I mean, and you know, the director Kathy Yan, I looked her up. She really doesn't have that much credential, but there's a lot of style and substance to this. The first 40 minutes, I was completely on board. I love this movie.
Right. Well, let's get into it.
Let's
get into the plot.
Let's go into it.
So the character of Harley Quinn, and now the backstory, I didn't realize this, is that her origin is so tied into the Joker that she's also born out of Ace Chemicals, which is, of course, is where the Joker was baptized. Harleen Quinzel is her actual name and has a number of degrees and was a psychiatrist. And in fact, the Joker's psychiatrist, and apparently he took a shine to her and made her pledge herself to him. And we open the movie with the big breakup of the relationship between Harley and Mr. J, as she calls him throughout the movie. Now, and apparently the breakup happens at a South Central house party because I didn't really get what was going on there, like what the circumstances were, but she gets thrown out of a party and they don't let her back in, and apparently the Joker is a little bit tired of Harley Quinn. Now, the big question for me was, would they have anybody playing the Joker? Jared Leto was too busy probably filming Morbius to do anything here.
And I think it's for the better that you just don't.
Yeah.
He's mentioned throughout. He's a driving force. The character's a driving force throughout this, but you don't need to bring him in. But if you think Jared Leto was upset with that Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's movie, he must have just been pushed over the edge with this, that Harley Quinn gets her own movie.
So the beginning stages is this. It's told via animated flashbacks. It's very poppy. It's very colorful. They break up. She takes it very badly. She is taken in by Doc, who is the proprietor of a Chinese restaurant. She lives upstairs from this Chinese restaurant. She buys a hyena that she names Bruce.
Bruce.
And immediately feeds him, the scumbag pet shop owner that tries to hit on her. Yeah. And you know that you're deep in a R-rated movie. I think the moment where because I wasn't even aware if it was R, if it was PG-13, when she jumps in the strip club on the driver's legs and snaps his legs in two. Now, the strip club is owned by Roman Sionis, played by Ewan McGregor, who's just chewing up scenery.
He is chewing. He's mouth wide open.
Staggers out of the club after she breaks the driver's legs. She sees a gas truck and pointed right towards Ace Chemical. So she uses that as a catharsis to blow up the place where she pledged herself to the Joker. So from this point on, she is a free agent.
She's emancipated herself.
She's emancipated. The emancipation of Harley Quinn.
The emancipation that you think maybe that's what kept people away. Do you remember years ago when Timothy Dalton license revoked, and they're like, people don't know what revoked means. We got to change the title of this movie.
That's ridiculous.
License to Kill. You remember that? That was like so stupid.
I don't think people are even aware of the subtitle of this film. I think people think it's just called Birds of Prey.
So at this point, let's talk Margot Robbie, because this is the first time I'm seeing her as this character, not seeing Suicide Squad. So I think she's already in these early stages of the movie winning over the audience, because I was already invested by this point. This is great.
I mean, Christina brings it up that sometimes too much of a good thing is too much. The first 40 minutes, I'm completely all on board because it is just mayhem. And then it gets a little weary, gets a little saggy in the middle, but then it picks up again when you start bringing the other characters in to play off her, so she's not quite so dominant. But it's a lot. It's exhausting, to be honest with you, because she is completely invested in this character. I mean, she lays it all out there for you.
She's like clearly working her butt off, and I appreciate the degree of energy like she's putting into her characterization. But yeah, I mean, I looked at my watch like 25 minutes of the movie. I was like, if I'm looking at my watch, like
that's not a good sign.
Not a good sign for me. This is a taste thing, Yeah. So for some people, they love Harley Quinn and they're gonna love this because they're gonna see all the Harley Quinn that they want. But for me, I think because as a writer, I'm always looking for like interesting characters and character arcs. And I thought actually Black Canary had a significantly more interesting character arc.
Yes, yeah.
And that they could have pulled that out even more, and it would have been, for me, less annoying than seeing so much Harley Quinn. Because the whole thing about Harley is she sort of liberated herself from her abuser, right?
Right.
Well, Black Canary's arc in the movie is also about liberating herself from her abuser, liberating herself from Roman. And I just wish that they had gone more deeply into her character, into her background. She's the only character that has superpower.
Right.
You don't
That
even
is
get
true.
to see
That
it
is
until
true.
the end.
Yeah,
of
and
the,
it comes out of
end the
nowhere.
film.
Comes out of
Right.
nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like for me, and I thought Journey Smollett Bell was great. For me, everything like sort of perked up once she came on screen. I always enjoy seeing like potential rapists get their butts kicked by
Well, let's
women.
talk about
So,
that. Let's talk
I
about
liked
her
that
introduction.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now this is the one thing that's out of character, because now Harley Quinn, she has always been protected because she is the Joker's girlfriend. So nobody messes with her because they don't want to mess with the Joker. So even when she breaks Roman's driver's legs, he doesn't do anything because it's hands off.
Because nobody knows they broke up yet.
So, but when word starts getting out, that's when she's at risk. And so there's another night, she's at the same nightclub, at Roman's nightclub, and somebody approaches her that you later find out. First, it looks like it's just a normal scumbag that's hitting on her, but then you realize that this is somebody that wants to take a piece of Harley Quinn. This is where like the character is a little bit atypical of how she acts throughout the whole movie. She's very drunk. Maybe he's given her a roofie, who knows, but she allows her guard to be let down, and he's about to throw her in the back of a van with some other guy, and who knows what they're going to do to her. But she is saved by Dinah Lane, who is Black Canary, and she completely kicks the ass of these two guys in a back alley. And Roman sees this from his window because it's in the back alley from his club. So at that point, Black Canary becomes, and she's still Dinah at this point, she becomes Roman's new driver since he is in need of a new driver. So we're introduced to her. Then we're introduced to Renee Montoya. You killed my brother.
Prepare to die.
Played by Rosie Perez.
Always happy to see Rosie Perez.
Yes.
And she's great in this. She's really good as this character. So she's investigating a murder of a mob boss and a few of his bodyguards, and they've been taken out by a crossbow. And this killer is now known as the Crossbow Killer. So
it becomes a running joke.
Which becomes a running joke. Montoya is trying to track down this crossbow killer at the same time as the Harley Quinn story is unfolding. You're getting these bits and pieces of the other Birds of Prey. Right. So again, this is just, really an extended setup for what could be a great Birds of Prey movie in the sequel, and who knows if we'll ever get one. So Montoya finds Harley's necklace because not only is she investigating this murder, but she also hears the Ace Chemical blowing up as she's there on the crime scene. So she goes outside and she picks up Harley's Mr. J necklace. So she knows that Harley is involved in some way. And at the same time, she approaches Dinah because she knows now that she's Roman's driver. And the old driver used to be Montoya's informant on Roman. Montoya makes this approach to Dinah, and she gets rebuffed.
Montoya brings up at that point, it's actually a reference back to the comics, but in the comics, Dinah's mother is also named Dinah, and she's also Black Canary. And in the film, there's just like a throwaway line where Montoya says, I know what happened to your mother, like she was a good woman. So you get this idea that Dinah's hiding a little bit from her abilities. It has to do with her mom. And again, to me, that was more interesting. I was like, why don't we delve
into that? Yeah. I mean, the original Black Canary was really connected with the Green Arrow. So I don't know if that character, I don't watch the Green Arrow TV show.
My son does.
So I don't know if the original Black Canary is tied into that at all. I would be shocked if she's not, but whether or not they actually tie that into the universes, or these are like freestanding.
Black Canary is on the Arrow show.
Okay, there you go.
I don't watch it, but my son watches it, and after we saw Birds of Prey, he gave me the whole rundown.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I really liked her, that Journey Smollett Bell. She's phenomenal. She's mesmerized me on screen, and like you said, she kicked ass, and that's the one thing Harley said. She goes, you're really cool, especially with those tight pants, those kicks you were doing. And that's the one thing you say. I mean, by and large, it looks like most of these women are doing their own stunts. I mean, I know what, there's trickery and CG replacing faces or whatnot, but it's pretty seamless. And it looks like they're having a hell of a good time.
Regardless if they're doing their own stunts or not, it's women that are doing these stunts.
Right.
And just the fact that scene where Black Canary takes out those two guys in the alley is probably the most visceral fight scene that I can, since Daredevil. Those are great fight scenes. This is where we get introduced to the Bertinelli diamond.
Valerie?
Not Valerie, no.
Oh,
this is not Valerie's engagement ring from
One
Eddie
diamond
Van
at a
Halen.
time?
Now, apparently the Bertinelli diamond is a bit of a MacGuffin here because it's gone missing, and it's got the key to the Bertinelli family fortune. And the Bertinellis were a big mob family that were all killed at the same time. But the diamond has gone missing. Now, the diamond is etched with the bank account numbers of their offshore bank accounts, and that's where their millions still lay.
That's where I keep my secret numbers as well, on the back of a giant diamond.
On the back of a giant diamond.
Yes,
so now
yeah,
the
who
diamond
wouldn't?
is missing. Now, somehow, I didn't get this.
No,
Roman somehow knows where it is. And
right, exactly. And they get it, and there's no,
it's
just,
like at an
by the way, here it
exports
is.
place. Yeah.
Right.
You got to go pick it up for me. And that's Dinah's really her first job as Roman's driver.
Which seems to be like it's some bank vault.
To go with Zaz, his psychopath henchman, to go pick it up at this bank vault. At the same time, there's this character, Cassandra Cain, who's this teenager from a broken family who is a pickpocket. And she was
awesome, by the way.
She is good. She happens to be on the street when they're going to pick up this diamond, and she's just picking pockets. She's walking down the street. She sees Dinah, and she picks the pocket of Zaz, who just has put the diamond in his pocket. And as she's continuing down the street and she's stealing more things, the police stop and grab her. And at that point, Zaz realizes the diamond is gone. Dinah realizes that Cassandra has taken it, and they're both running after the police car. At the same time, Roman finds out that Harley is no longer going out with the Joker. So he takes it upon himself to grab Harley and to torture her. He's going to kill her because of all these things that she's done, just the most recent being breaking his driver's legs. Harley talks her way out of it by saying that she can find this diamond that she's overheard him talking about. And the next scene is Harley going into the police station, very Terminator-esque.
Right, the beanbag gun.
With a beanbag gun, and not killing anybody, which is an
Right.
interesting facet to her character here in this movie, and takes out the entire police station to get to Cassandra Cain. Now, this was probably the highlight of the movie for me, was this entire sequence. Because
Yes.
it goes on for quite some time, and it is a tribute, I think, knowingly to the Terminator, because it's so similar to it. At the same time, Roman, to make it interesting, has also put word out to the underground that this girl has the diamond. And so he's put a price on her head. So not only is Harley going after her, but she's got to compete against all these other scumbags that are coming after this girl at the same time. She takes out the police force, but in the evidence room, she also has to fight with this gang of guys that are coming after Cassandra. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when one particular goon has her and she lights his beard on fire,
Right.
which is... So thoughts on this scene from you two? Did you enjoy it as much as I did?
I did.
At this point in the film, I was like, I just really could do with less Harley Quinn. I know that was coloring my perception.
Really? Oh, really?
Well,
Yeah.
well, Christina, I suggest that you do not see Zombieland 2 because there is a completely annoying character in that.
Oh, no, you got to watch Zombieland too. We didn't even talk about the soundtrack. Which
The soundtrack is great until the end.
The soundtrack is phenomenal, and it just propels every one of these fight sequences.
Yeah. I could have done without that song "Boss Bitch" over the closing credits, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
No, I thought. Listen, I just said at the top of the that I had zero expectations going in. I really could have done without this. DC movies outside of Wonder Woman have really done nothing for me. I enjoyed this. It does sag in the middle. But the fight sequences, just each one of them just ups itself to the point of ridiculousness. When you get to the big battle at the end with all the thugs inside the amusement park, it's so over the top. It's like right there with Batman '66 TV show, but it's goofy. And if any one of those guys had a gun, it would have been over in a heartbeat. But that's not what It's all fisticuffs and hitting each other with bats and whatnot.
And what was surprising, and this was, even though it's an R-rated movie, I understand, but the fact that she's hiding behind a mountain of confiscated cocaine.
Coke, yeah.
And then when they're shooting at her, she ingests it and then all of a sudden has a second wind.
Yeah.
So that was surprising that they went there. I think
don't
they
know.
are trying to go the Deadpool route with Harley
Yeah, oh,
Quinn.
absolutely. To the point where I think was it Deadpool 2 where he's trying to redeem and save the kid with the fire powers who just wants revenge. You know, so you kind of got that motherly, you know, she's now forced to kind of protect this girl. And you see this little bit of a bond growing, you know, to the point where they're sitting there eating cereal, watching cartoons, which just definitely is just an homage to cartoons. It's just silly, over the top stuff.
We haven't talked about Huntress yet. And,
no,
Ramona
Flowers, baby. Ramona Flowers.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
yes.
who we got in Gemini Man as well.
That's true.
And she was in, Christina, have you ever seen the show Brain Dead?
No.
About alien bugs that come down and take over politicians in Washington. It came out right around the 2016 election. Mm-hmm. So it was like an explanation for the behavior of Republicans. So it was a great
so
show.
It's still relevant? Yeah.
It is still relevant now. Yeah. But she plays Huntress Helena Bertinelli. So she is the only survivor of that massacre we already mentioned of the Bertinelli family. Now, one of the assailants sees that this girl, Helena, is still alive, but doesn't tell anybody else. He gets her out of the crime scene, whisks her away to his father and brother, who for the rest of her life train her as a killer. Now, was this guy that took her away one of the people that killed her family? Would she have to kill him?
Yeah. Right. That was my take. That he was they did kind of like gloss that over, but you got the impression that he was one of the
killers,
guys.
Right?
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
So, but that's her backstory. So we have Huntress, and I would have loved to have seen more of her.
Yes.
In the movie.
Yeah. No, and I think she underplayed it a lot. She seemed very kind of.
She does underplay it. Now, she is a great actress. She is we've seen her many times before, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Kind of like my argument for Captain Marvel. She doesn't know who she is. All she knows from life is training to get revenge on these killers. Yeah. So she has no social skills.
No.
And so the character seems devoid of personality, but that is her personality.
I did not laugh at a single thing in this movie except for Huntress.
Except for Huntress.
Yes.
She was the butt of some jokes. But
the scene where she's in front of the mirror trying to figure out how to introduce herself.
You don't know who I am?
And the scene at the end where she doesn't know how to fist bump. Like that was the only time I even cracked a smile. And that was why I thought, I know this movie is supposed to be funny. Look, you guys have to understand, I am the best audience in the world. I am. I go to a movie and I think every movie, I'm going to love this. I am willing to be convinced by your film. I'm perfectly credulous. Like, I'll try to buy whatever you're putting on screen. But something about this movie was just not working for me. And I could see elements of it that would work for me. More Black Canary, more Huntress, less Harley Quinn, more Montoya. I mean, basically, more Birds of Prey.
Now, wait a second. How was your son reacting to this?
Yeah, it's super interesting because he's actually even more of a DC fan than I am because he's read more of the recent stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that bugged him the most was the character of Roman. Because in the movie, he's basically like a big spoiled man baby.
Right.
In my son was saying in particular, he loves the characterization of Black Mass that's in Under the Red Hood by Judd Winnick.
Yep.
And he compared him in that book. He said he's more like a kingpin, like where he's really super powerful. He's sort of cunning, he's smart.
Right.
He's brutal, but like he's not sort of a whiner. So he was actually disappointed that the women of the movie didn't have a better villain to show their talents against, I guess.
Interesting.
I thought the same thing, that he was not that the henchman was more of a threat to the women.
Yeah. Well, Ewan McGregor is not, I mean, he's kind of like a Tom Hanks in the sense that he always kind of plays like the guy that everybody loves. So now he's a bad guy, but I don't think
it was his person. I think he's capable of playing a scary guy, right? But I think because that his character was that way, it makes the women look even stronger.
I mean, I also had a thought that maybe he was written that way because it's sort of the stereotype of where like a mediocre man can gain all of this power and like these much, more powerful women around them don't get credit for what they do.
Well, that scene when he humiliates the one woman in his club,
By making her
Roman,
dance,
yeah.
And he's got no sexual interest in her. It's just like a cowardly kind of show of power on this character that he doesn't really have without like his henchmen or these people around him. So
Actually, I thought that scene in particular was a callback to, I'm sure you guys have heard this said before. This is sort of entered the lexicon. Men are afraid women will laugh at them, and women are afraid men will kill them. So, and I felt that dynamic, that power dynamic was really at play in that scene. Sorry, I just killed the momentum.
Yeah. we're mulling over that.
I know. No, I'm not supposed to like this at all.
So, but no, this gets us to the end of the movie. So now our birds are converging at this amusement park. Doc has sold out Harley because he's told the bad guys where she is. He's leaving town and her apartment has been bombed. And Harley at the same time is selling out Cassandra because she doesn't want everybody coming after her anymore. So she agrees to meet Roman at this amusement park. And this is where Dinah clues in Montoya. So everybody's converging as his huntress at this hideout that Harley Quinn has. And whenever all the girls meet, there's a little bit of an altercation between them, but then they realize that if they band together, they can actually do the right thing here and fight off Roman. And so Harley arms them all. She's got an armory in one of these. She actually had guns, but the Joker has taken them. So she's got the next best thing, which is her giant mallet hammer and a few other things, including a bulletproof bustier that she gives to Rosie Perez. So here we get the big fight in the amusement park in the funhouse scene, which was, and Christina, I know you're not going to get this reference, but it was very much the man with the golden gun, that type of thing when Roger Moore is fighting Christopher Lee at the end because Christopher Lee has a funhouse. But I thought it was a great scene as well. It was visually a callback to the Joker and Harley's roots. Roman gets his hands on Cassandra. Harley was taking the prune juice route because we didn't say that Cassandra swallowed the diamond at some point. Right. So it's been inside her throughout this entire movie. So Harley's been giving her laxatives, prune juice throughout, but nothing's been working. Roman has it in his mind that he's going to cut the diamond out of her. Right. Jeff, you're talking about how it looks like the girls themselves are doing their own stunts. Right. Never more so than when Margot Robbie is on the roller skates.
Yeah, oh my God. That was actually pretty fun. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's possible that she could do it. She's probably going a lot slower than the film appears to. But
yeah, even like you said, even if it wasn't her, it's still a female stunt driver. It's still it's a very, very girl powered.
And we didn't talk about Black Canary's power because this is where she reveals that she's got the voice power, right? So she comes out and she gives a blast, which enables Harley Quinn to actually chase Roman's car on her roller skates.
Yeah, she just needed the Acme jetpack on the back, and she would have been straight up Wile E. Coyote.
Because during that scene, when she lets loose with the voice, you're like, "Wow, she can do this," and she hasn't done it yet.
I know,
right?
Movie? you're like, that would have been a different movie, right?
Yeah, it would have been. Like now, I want to see part 2, just for what they did with her.
There you go. And like you said, you do. It's all a big setup because you do see the 3 characters. Montoya quits the force and they become vigilantes, and that's where you see the huntress in her full huntress outfit and whatnot. I
mean, I would like to see, so like Harley goes after Cassandra and Roman, right? And Cassandra actually is the one who defeats Roman because she's taken the grenades from Harley's trunk. Yep. And she like puts them in his pockets basically, right? And then pulls the pin because she's a pickpocket, and obviously she can do this without him noticing. Again, like going back to like this theme of the characters liberating themselves from their abusers, I think it would have been a lot more emotionally satisfying to see Black Canary take him down at the end, especially, because he's always sort of putting her in her place. He calls her little bird. Right. She's just an object to
property,
him.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a lot more emotionally satisfying to see Black Canary take him out and Harley Quinn, liberate herself from him in a meaningful way. So I was really disappointed that didn't happen.
Yeah, I see that.
And so Black Mask, Roman is done. He blows up at the end of the...
He blowed up.
He blowed up at the end of
He
Blowed Up
go
Good.
boom. He go boom.
This just leaves the epilogue where they actually have to get the diamond out of Cassandra. So they're in a restaurant and nature
Mexican
calls.
food. They're feeding her Mexican food.
She runs to the bathroom. Now, I wasn't quite sure what was happening here. Does Harley get the diamond at that point and then steals the car? Or later
she
gets
just
the
says,
diamond?
come bring a colander.
But the end of the movie is revealed where Huntress gets the codes in order to get her fortune, but Harley ends up with a diamond, which she pawns to start her own business of finding things, we assume. And then Cassandra is her apprentice. The Birds of Prey are kind of set up without Harley at the end of the movie. So it's just Montoya, Huntress, and Black Canary as the Birds of Prey. And with an occasional guest spot by Harley Quinn.
Maybe you'll see the Harley Mobile.
This is what Christina was hoping for this movie.
Yeah, right.
And that's the end. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah. Did you sit through the credits?
I did not.
I know you didn't. Apparently, you ran out of there.
It was like at the end of the movie for Christina. It was like wah, 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 Debbie Downer. Right?
Wow. Did you at least enjoy the soundtrack?
The retro soundtrack.
Honestly, I think I was just so caught up in like, why do I keep seeing Harley Quinn?
Yeah, she's a lot but you're right though. She's a lot to take in, and and that voice and the mannerisms
but I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yes, it does. Oh, I enjoyed it.
She takes this movie on her shoulders and carries her through it, and she's the unifying force throughout.
That's what I said. Jared Leto was probably beside himself.
I'm not saying like that she's not great. I'm just saying I could have used less of the character.
Yeah.
So now this actually got good reviews.
So why is it doing bad at the box office?
Well, that's the big question, right? So it got an 83% positive score, 83% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
It got a B+ cinema score of audiences coming out of the movie. And now there's mixed reviews. Some of them are very much on the pro side, but the San Francisco Chronicle, it should not exist, they say.
Well, no.
Money should never have been raised for this movie. Margot Robbie should not have produced it. That's all the review was. They should not have done this. They should.
Oh my god!
So he was violently opposed to this movie. Okay. Variety said it was thin but lively. I enjoy listening to
That's a rave review right there, baby.
Yeah, the screenplay was scattershot, right? So it does kind of careen from one setup to the next.
But it holds the. I mean, it does. It's because like you said, especially the first 40 minutes or so, there's so many, like, she's starting and stopping and flashbacks, and you start to see a scene and then it'll stop and all right, let me backtrack, and then you go back and you see like what happened and what led up to that, but maybe that's the frenetic nature of kids nowadays, that their attention span is just like one little tiny action sequence after another.
I think that they did themselves a big disservice by making this an R-rated film, because I feel like they caught off 13, 17-year-old girls who would otherwise have loved to go see this movie,
Right. Like I said, my niece, 13, I can't see her, my sister taking her to the movies to see this.
I was appreciative that there was not a row of 13-year-old girls sitting behind me.
But I think that they cut out like a huge portion of their audience.
Right. But like to Jim's point, I think that they really were looking to ride on that Deadpool bandwagon. Deadpool did it in box office boffo.
Well, like I said, I can't figure out the placement of this film. Were they trying to make it succeed by putting it in a quiet month so that it would have more of an opportunity to land with a splash, sort of overrun by other tentpoles? Yep. Or were they just like, nobody's going to go see this movie, so we'll just drop it in February when nobody goes to movies? I can't tell like what their strategy was, but I don't know that the movie necessarily got the same support. I
just sat down, I wanted to be entertained, and it did the trick.
I was absolutely entertained. Yeah, it exceeded my expectations because I had none. I expected to hate it, to be honest with you. I didn't like her character in Suicide Squad. Let's put it that way.
So you did see Suicide Squad?
Oh, I've seen, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, I've seen Suicide Squad. Right. I don't admit that to many people, but I have. And I would put this up there, right behind. And I will say I did see the trailer on the big screen for Wonder Woman 1984, and it seems a little more.
You were more excited this time? Yeah. It looks great.
I don't like the fact that they brought Steve back from the dead. but I did like his character. But whatever. Listen, you know what? I'll go see it. We'll talk about it. And I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised.
Some interesting things about Birds of Prey. Penguin was set to appear in this. He was in early versions of the screenplay, but apparently they do want to save him. The Robert Pattinson Batman.
They got every friggin' villain in Batman's arsenal is going to be in that movie. Again, you're backloading it with too many villains.
And I found it interesting that there was a set piece built around Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend here.
Yes.
Given Ewan McGregor's history with Moulin Rouge. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But he was not a part of that.
All right. So I'm almost afraid to ask this.
I'll go first because I'm going to give it a solid 3.5 just for the entertainment value. You say a 3 is I'm entertained.
You know, I'm going to go right there with you. 3.5. Yeah. My wife was on board with Christina. She did not like this.
No, my wife wanted to see it with me, and it just didn't work out. But I did text my son. I said, go see it. He goes, we're going to see Star Wars instead. So he had a chance to go with his buddies, and they went to go see StarArs for a 5th time.
All right, drum roll. Christina, what kind of buckets do you give this thing?
So I'm going to say it's a 3.
Wow.
That's still not
You're
a
still
bad.
giving it a good, decent.
But I would not watch it
caveat.
again. I would not watch it again.
Okay, that's fair enough.
There's nothing there that would make me want to go see it again. It was funny because I went to see this with my son, who's 13, and like I said, he's even more sort of steeped in like the recent DC stuff than I am. And we always go out for lunch after the movie, and we were sitting in our favorite diner. We were just kind of looking at each other like,
okay, that was a thing.
Like, okay, neither of us. Usually we come out of the movies and we're like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And we were both kind of like, well, it was a movie,
Yeah. Well, that was 2 hours.
I was rooting for this film, and I am still rooting for this film to do well, because especially I would love to see a film with the 3 Birds of Prey.
Yep. And Oracle. We got to bring in Barbara Gordon.
Yes, I would have loved to see Oracle. When they first announced this film, I was like, oh, are they going to have a movie with Oracle? Especially because just from a representation standpoint, you don't often see like characters in wheelchairs on screen.
Well, Jim, are you familiar? Do you know who Oracle is?
No.
Is Barbara Gordon is the original Batgirl. Mm-hmm. And there's a famous graphic novel called The Killing Joke, in which the Joker beats the living crap out of her and paralyzes her. And so she's no longer a crime fighting, motorcycle riding Batgirl. But she becomes this character Oracle, who is kind of Batman's Q. Mm-hmm. She sits behind a bank of computers and feeds him information. And obviously, she's tied heavily into the Birds of Prey comic series in the Batman universe.
And the choice to because Killing Joke is a standalone story, so a lot of times the standalone stories don't have consequences in the regular storyline, but they made this decision to sort of retain the element of it and take it into the main storyline of Batman. And she's such a great character. Yeah. And like I said, when Birds of Prey was first announced, I was like, oh, there's going to be Birds of Prey. We're going to see Oracle on screen, and there's no Oracle. There's too much Harley Quinn for me. If there was a quarter as much Harley Quinn, I might have liked it. Yeah. Liked it more. I just wanted. I wanted more of the other characters. I wanted less of her, and I understand she's the producer, so you're not going to sideline her character. Right? Yeah.
So it's like a superhero Sunday with one too many scoops of Fruity Tooty ice cream.
Apparently, she's the one that pitched this movie to Warner Brothers. Yeah,
and I'm totally behind. I want this movie to do well, because I don't want its lack of success to justify other projects not getting greenlit just because they're written, directed, starring women.
No, and I think this is a more entertaining movie than Aquaman, if you're going to compare DC movies. And Aquaman did boffo box office, so I'm very surprised that this is not. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I'm surprised, because there really is no competition. There's really no other superhero stuff out there right now. But again, I'm a superhero guy. I really had no interest in seeing it, so maybe that has something to
do with it.
Right. Suicide Squad did not do well either.
We're obligated to see movies like this. That's why we were all sitting in the theater. But, if the average fan is like Jeff and a comic book person, but has no desire to see this movie, then they're not going to go out and see
And
it.
like you said, Black Mask, outside of that, that Batman animated movie, I have no reference to the character. He's not a Penguin, he's not a Joker, he's not, So there we go. We gotta leave this behind.
Let's visit the concession stand.
Yeah, I need some.
And we'll come right back.
Food.
Do we want to come back is the big question.
I don't know. Christina.
We'll come back and talk Condorman.
It's intermission time. The show starts in 10 minutes. Yes, folks, it's intermission time. So how about taking a break? Get out and stretch a little and relax before the show begins again. And why not make it refreshment time, too? We have lots of tasty, delicious treats waiting for you at the refreshment center. There's hot popcorn, so golden good and fresh out of the popper. And all kinds of refreshing ice-cold soft drinks. Sizzling hot dogs just bursting with juicy goodness. Ice cream so smooth and delicious, you'll hanker for more. Plus, all the most popular candy bars and many other favorite treats. So why not visit the refreshment center now? Our courteous attendants are ready and waiting to serve you with a wide and wonderful variety of good things to eat and drink. So step right up and make yourself at home.
Now, it's showtime.
Okay, we're back. And our classic feature.
Can we even call this a classic?
It's classic in terms of years.
1981?
1981.
1981.
Now,
I'm going to obviously say, honestly, I don't think I know of it, but I don't think I've ever
seen it.
either.
I've never saw it in the theater. I don't even remember it playing in the theater, but at the dawn of the VCR, back in 1981, maybe fall 81, or could even be early winter 82, my father brought home this strange large device from the electronics store, and we had just rented it. He didn't even buy it. We rented it for the weekend.
Changed your life, didn't it?
It did. And one of the movies that he rented was Condorman. It was one of those big shell case Disney video cases.
That probably would have set you back $200 if you lost it or
probably would have.
broke it.
Yes. And I watched it on that, and I just thought it was the greatest thing. Not the movie, but the fact that I could watch a movie uninterrupted by commercials at home whenever I wanted to. It was great. In the same vein, we had friends who he had 2 VCRs. So he would go to the video store, rent, and then record it.
Wow.
So they had a library of movies.
The hookup. He really,
and back then you could put 3 or 4 movies on a VHS tape and forget it. It was a cornucopia of crappy movies, but you could watch them. No commercials.
Yes,
didn't have HBO.
Didn't matter at that time what the quality was either.
Bad quality.
The tracking, it was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah. But that's what we had back then.
Be kind, rewind.
So that was my history with Condorman. That was the first movie I ever watched as a VHS tape. But still had no memory of it whatsoever, because I don't think I've watched it since that viewing back in 1981.
You washed that right out of your brain.
Released in August of that year, was a failure at the box office.
I'm shocked.
A dismal failure for Disney. It cost $14 million to make, and I think it made $5 million back at the box office.
$14 million. Where'd that money go?
I don't know.
It had been in a car and a boat.
Right? Now this is really an incredulous. Now, I listened back to our Us and Them episode, and Christina really, what she said about Us, because I was hesitant to give Us more buckets because of what I was saying was its implausibility. And what you said really made me think about, okay, maybe I should relax. Maybe I shouldn't think about these things.
Just go
but
with it.
Watching Condorman brought those feelings rushing back to the fore.
So you guys, like I was saying to Jim before the show started, I couldn't remember which one of you had actually suggested this, but I just know that I'm plotting my revenge.
It was Jim.
I mentioned I dared to mention the name, but Jeff, you were fully on board with Condorman.
Yeah, because the only memory I ever have of this is the movie poster with him in the costume and the big giant wings, and I'm like, and it's Disney, so you're like, that's it, I'm in.
And it's a superhero movie.
I'm all for the show, and especially if we have a thematic tie-in, then let's go for it, whatever. And I will say that poster is so misleading.
It is.
What you get with this movie, because you're like, you see it for like the first second in the movie. It opens with he's animated and he's flying around Paris.
Now, would you call that great though?
No,
that opening animation.
Disney, that was like pre-Secrets of Nim Disney animation. But he's flying around and he does the goofy.
He does the woo.
And I'm like, all right, Henry Mancini did the soundtrack, and I'm like, all right, let's go with this. And it immediately just plummets.
It did.
Yeah.
I was actually irritated before the credits were even over because I was like, if I hear them say Condorman.
Condor, yeah, that is the whole soundtrack. Condorman.
That's actually the only thing I remembered from my viewing was that Condorman.
Not to be confused with Condom-Man, which was a different movie.
Now, I looked at one of the alternate posters for this, the movie posters.
Yeah, I dug
deep
for the
how the
Instagram.
famous Superman Christopher Reeve poster, "You'll believe a man can fly."
Yes. Yeah.
This one said, "You'll believe a man can hover
Right.
and descend straight down slowly."
Stop. It is so bad. And this blew my mind. This is Michael Crawford.
This is Hello Dolly, Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. Michael Crawford. This guy is the worst actor ever. He is yelling. He went to like the Regis Philbin School of Acting because everything I'm saying is like this. I'm talking like this.
And when I don't want to jump ahead in our.
We can't spoil it.
I'm just gonna say I did not understand why that beautiful woman was instantly attracted to a man with the least amount of sex appeal I've ever seen on screen.
No, and right, and especially when you realize that this is the Phantom of the Opera. He's got a voice and he's a man.
He should have been singing. He should have been singing Condorman like throughout
that
the
would
movie.
have been great. He's rowing out the boat, Condorman.
So we do have a superhero setup. He is a comic book author and artist. Woodrow Wilkins. And he's got the alliteration, Woodrow Wilkins, right?
Yep, WW. There you go.
He is friends to a guy named Harry who is a CIA file clerk. And for reasons unknown, they want to use a civilian for a papers exchange mission.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. First of all, the idea of using a civilian, but second of all, they handcuffed the briefcase to him. So like these are unimportant papers, but they're still handcuffing.
Right, and the whole point of using
wrist.
Right, is to be unassuming, but you have a handcuff on your suitcase, and he's like straight up Jack Tripper. He goes with the trench coat and the hat and the glasses, and he's all in.
And his big thing is that he wants realism for his comic book characters, so that's why he insists on making wings at the beginning of the movie and flying off of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, when they didn't work.
When I say hover. This is actually the same guy that did the flying effects for Superman, that did the flying effects for this movie. And when he takes flight, literally, he's just sitting still in the air and furtively trying to flap his wings as he falls slowly and delicately into the Seine River.
It is so bad.
You can totally see that cable many times.
I wished he drowned at the beginning of the movie.
So we get this paper swap, the civilian paper swap that the CIA recruits him to do in Istanbul,
which is full of like American tourists. It looks like it was filmed in the back lot of Disney.
He meets Natalia, who is not a civilian herself, but she is KGB. And these guys show up at this swap to kill her, to kill him, to get the paper. I don't know what they're there for. But he kind of ineptly dispatches all of them, but it's the slapstick shtick where he bends over and like one guy misses him and skewers the other guy. And so now Natalia is smitten by this guy and wants to defect. And she wants him to facilitate defection.
And he refers to himself as Condorman.
Yes, that's his code name.
All of a sudden CIA's like, wait, who is this Condorman?
Before this scene was even over, so me and my husband and my son all sat down to watch this movie. My son left the room before the restaurant scene was over. He was like, I can't take it. And he left. My husband was like, I'll stay with you. He threw himself on the grenade.
There you go. Take one for the team.
But I paused it 14 minutes into the movie to see how much time I had left. 14 minutes.
That's even worse
in.
than looking at your watch during Birds of Prey. Did you watch this before Birds of Prey or after?
We watched this before.
So when
Prey
you're
was
sitting
like
in the
a
theater,
Mona
you're probably
Lisa.
like, you
Yeah.
idiots. What the?
You should have given Birds of Prey 4 buckets after Condorman.
Right, because I wasn't Condorman.
Oh,
This guy's he's not likable in
he-
any way, shape, or form.
And it was so bad and so, like I said, I'm always like the greatest audience. I'm always ready to believe in whatever you say. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was starting to get actively angry, you know?
At us?
Yeah.
Like, at you guys, at the movie,
Christina,
at everything.
I think that might be an overstatement. After these two, especially, that you are the greatest audience.
You stuck it out. You know, Mike would have just not watched this. So
Yeah, this is true. At least you watched it, so we commend you for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
normally my husband and I try to like make it more amusing by talking, about how bad it is.
Yeah,
it was so bad we couldn't even make it funny for ourselves.
No,
I'm not going to
like next
argue.
week.
I'm not going to argue.
No, this is just straight up. Yeah, I lost interest halfway through it.
But let's continue.
Do we have to
Please.
recap the plot?
That's
Because
basically the plot.
because I've got some points to make. That
All right,
just
let's
how
go.
ridiculous this is as we
go.
continue on. So we've
So
already
she's a
set
Russian
up.
spy who has no Russian
Natalia
accent.
is a Russian spy. Now she's played by Barbara Korea, who is famous for her role as a Bond villain in Never Say Never Again. I think she was on Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, and a few other genre roles. So again, she is called the Bear by the CIA. She wants to defect, and she wants Condorman to do it. So in order to do so, what he asks of Harry is that the CIA has to fund him whatever he wants
Whatever he wants.
in order to pull this off.
Okay,
Really?
let's do it. Yeah. Okay.
So they built him
So he
a
makes these
Condorman race
demands.
car. They built him a
boat.
Condorman boat. So this is not a superhero movie. This is like a poor imitation of a James Bond
And they
movie.
had to have built him a better suit too, because we saw a break in the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely a different suit. I'm not going to
Right.
say better. It was
Okay.
different at the end.
And meanwhile, when he comes back, he's so smitten with this lady that he immediately turns her into a comic book character called Laser Lady. And I will say, I couldn't find anything that gave credit to any of the artists who actually drew the artwork. They probably were in-house Disney guys at the time.
Yeah,
but
probably.
he's doing these some really nice. I was really thinking Wally Wood, but I don't even know if Wally Wood was alive then. Yeah, but anyways, I digress because later on, just the most unbelievable thing, which is somehow he's magically in this little time period before he comes back, and then they send him off to go and retrieve her. He magically writes, draws, and publishes an issue of this comic book that makes its way to Yugoslavia
That all the
because
kids are
these little
reading.
kids
Yeah.
have and immediately recognize this woman as Laser Lady. And I'm just like, that's the most implausible thing I've ever seen in my life.
And his cover in Yugoslavia is a gypsy. The Condorman race car is underneath this gypsy truck.
Which it's just so stupid.
And the bad guys come after them in like 6 black Porsches.
Right.
And if they want to be inconspicuous, I don't think a black Porsche is the way to go. But the main bad guy is Morovich, I think his name is. He's got a
Morovich,
glass
yeah.
eye, and he has a grudge against Condorman.
Wait. They're called the KGB Pursuit Squadron?
Pursuit Squadron.
She's like, oh no, it's the KGB Pursuit Squadron or something. Like, I can't remember if it was KGB, but she definitely said
The pursuit, they have a
Squadron.
name.
Yeah.
And the entire town in Yugoslavia stops because they hear them coming.
They hear
Uh-oh.
him coming.
It's the
You think
Pursuit
it's like a
Squadron.
bomb. They're good. You're right. But that Morovich guy, he looks like the professor from Phineas and Ferb.
Yes, he does. Doofenshmirtz. is what his name. We haven't even talked about Oliver Reed yet, who's the main
boy,
bad
was he
guy.
slumming it.
Like, I know. I was like, Oliver Reed,
Krokov.
why are you in this movie?
Krokov.
This is Natalia's boyfriend, and Square Jaw would not begin to describe this man's head. He's got like a size 20 head.
He's like-
His hat size has got to be
Yeah, he's like the
huge.
kingpin, but his body hasn't grown into his head yet.
So yes, so we get the defection. So now Natalia is with Condorman, and they're making googly eyes at each other.
Meanwhile,
she realizes
she's
that,
just like hiding behind a bush in Yugoslavia waiting for him to show up again.
But then we get the scene with the kids, and they realize that they recognize her as Laser
Right.
Lady, and then she realizes that maybe Wilkins is not what he sees.
Wait a minute. I just put my life into your hands.
So then they end up in Switzerland, going up a cable rather than use the cable car, because they've got this device that is like a jetpack that brings them up the cable.
Yeah, I don't know. He obviously had this all planned out. He knew exactly what he was going to need.
And Krakow finds them there and blows up their cable. And it's a pretty good scene where they actually fall into the snow.
Yeah.
I don't know how many feet they fall, but you would assume that they were dead. But no, they're just playing possum.
No, well, you can tell
in the
they were towels.
Krakow gets Natalia and brings her back to Monte Carlo, and he's gonna bring her. And then Harry and Woodrow, they dress up as sheiks in order to get her back in Monte Carlo. So this brings us. Let's fast forward to the end.
Please.
We're an hour and 17 minutes into this movie, and then the suit finally makes an appearance.
Which he was obviously, like, somehow he was wearing this underneath his chic costume the entire time.
The wings are
with the
folded
giant
under
wings.
the chic costume. And again, with the new suit, the flying effect does not get any better. Natalia is awkwardly holding on to him as she slowly takes off from the parapet in this place in Monte Carlo and is flying over the city. And then we go into the final scene, which is the Condor boat.
Right before this, Harry's like bringing him into land, like he can control the wings or something. He's like, over here, bring it down here. Like all he needs is like a couple of flares or something.
Right. So it goes into the boat chase at the end, which is lifted directly from Russia with love, which results in the fiery deaths of I don't know how many of these KGB.
I guess they didn't see that rock wall
the
right there.
The
Pursuit Squadron, right.
The amphibious.
Krakow, he knowingly jumps out of the boat right before, because Morovich again has a grudge against Condorman and is willing to kill himself to kill Condorman, but it doesn't quite work out that way. So at the very end of the movie, you see Harry and Woodrow and Natalia at a baseball game, and the Goodyear blimp is flying by, and it's saying, welcome to America, Natalia. Look, there's a Russian defector right there, sitting there. Welcome to America.
Aisle 7, seat 6.
It turns out that they want Condorman for another mission, and he gleefully smiles, freeze frame. Condorman!
We're still waiting for that sequel, by the way.
Oh, so Jeff, did you see this on DVD or did you watch it on Amazon?
I did. My library came through for me on this.
Was it actually letterbox? Because mine was a terrible pan and scan.
There's a letterbox and there's a regular pan and scan.
The picture was bad
the quality
as well.
was bad. The quality was horrible, and it looks like they found this DVD, like it was been laying underneath a shelf for years that no one even knew it was there.
It was not even in the Chicago library system.
Yeah, it wasn't in mine either, and mine is a much smaller system than Chicago.
I had 101.
So again, I had mentioned before that the guy that did the effects for the Superman flight, he had a gag rule on the set of Condorman that nobody could speak of how he pulled off these flying effects. Really?
Really? I can't tell you.
You don't see that cable. You don't see that cable there. Don't talk about
this. The KGB
this.
Pursuit Squad would come after you otherwise.
First rule of Condorman is don't talk about Condorman. That should be our rule.
Yeah, well, too late.
Too late, yes.
Too late.
Sequel never came to be. They obviously wanted a sequel badly at the end of this movie, but it was done. A sequel was done very a la Black Hole as a Whitman comic book.
The comic book series, yep.
So he does go on a second mission.
He had his own ice cream bar, too. Condorman Crunch. I don't know. I think there was toys. Were there vehicles?
There was, I think, Corgi toys.
Corgis, yeah.
Of the boat and the car.
Yeah, sure. But, this movie is horrible. I still can't get over that that's the same guy who played Phantom of the Opera. That just blows my mind.
But, it's more meaningful to me because, he is in Hello, Dolly, and by extension is in Wall-E, because Hello, Dolly plays heavily into Wall-E. Put on your Sunday, that's him.
Wow, that's him. Oofa. This is bad. This is
when
rough.
When Marvel was bought by Disney in 2009, Spider-Man editor Steven Wecker at the time lobbied heavily to bring Condorman into the Marvel universe.
That's great.
Never happened.
I would think as a kid, maybe seeing this, you could kind of get on board, because it is kind of like a kid's fantasy where he's drawing comic books and now he's kind of living the superhero life. But it's just, as an adult, this movie stinks.
But again, it's like going into it expecting a comic book movie. It's not. It's
No,
like
it's
a
not.
sub
Like I said,
sub
the
James
movie,
Bond movie.
the movie poster seriously misleads you into what you're about to be assaulted with.
Apparently, it's based on a book called The Game of X by Robert Sheckley, and I cannot attest to how good the book was. You know, maybe it's funnier in prose. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even think they were playing this for laughs, though. I think.
Did you catch even their comic book lore is off base? At one point, he says Superman's got the Big Apple sewn up. Like,
Right?
really,
Yeah.
Superman
No,
doesn't operate in New York.
Yeah.
We're all just sitting here in disbelief that we actually spent this hour and a half of our life watching this movie.
But there is also a tie-in to Toy Story with Condorman. If you've ever seen the short Small Fry, where Buzz Lightyear goes to a support meeting for discarded Happy Meal toys, there is a Condorman toy at that meeting.
Yes, I read that too.
Did he get his own Happy Meal toy?
No,
that would have been right around the time.
He did not.
McDonald's was really.
But the toy, I remember seeing that in this short, and the toy does have the final version of the Condorman suit on. So
gotcha.
Disappointing on pretty much every level.
Yeah.
And
I highly recommend you don't see this movie. 2. I give it a 2.
I would give it 1.5.
Woo!
And I only give it that because of my memory of that day when my dad brought home that VCR from the video store.
You're just holding on to that memory.
Yep.
That VCR, man.
So I'm giving this half a bucket for being a movie. It had no redeeming value for me whatsoever.
Wow, so my 2 is like a stellar. You know, I always go on record to saying that no one sets out to make a bad movie, but I might have to.
True.
I might have to rethink that because.
I mean, come on, look at the dailies with this guy. You know, how can you think that this is going to succeed?
Right.
I
didn't think they bothered looking at dailies.
Idea through the whole film, I'm like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? It's so ridiculous on every level. And like I said, my son will watch almost anything. Like any garbage that's on TV, he will watch it. And he walked out of the room. I was like, this is a bad movie if he's leaving, because he was embarrassed to be in the same room as this movie.
Maybe we should find a new podcast, Mom.
So, Christina, do you think that Harley Quinn and Woodrow Wilkins should walk arm in arm into the sunset together?
No. I mean, Woodrow Wilkins significantly more annoying than Harley. I feel like you guys are getting like a misunderstanding. I like Harley Quinn as a character, just not so much Harley Quinn in one dose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should adhere to the gag rule. That we should not speak of Condorman.
Oh, this could be the gift that keeps on giving. There's a point where, listen, in future episodes, if we find a bad movie, it'll never be Condorman bad. I can't believe that Mystery Science Theater was not all over this at some point.
Because it's not even
funny.
Disney,
right?
There's like nothing where you can sort of grab onto it to laugh at it. I actually thought about asking iTunes for my money back.
We're sorry.
But yeah, because it would be a perfect candidate for Mystery Science, but it's a Disney. They would never allow them.
Listen, Disney's
things to
fallible.
go out.
They're not infallible.
So
yeah, for Mystery Science Theater 3000, they can only do movies that are like
in the public,
public domain, right? Yeah.
Because they got in trouble for Godzilla versus Megalon, which was mistakenly thought to be in the public domain, but Toho.
I thought it was when we talked about it.
It wasn't. A lot of companies did put it out on VHS, but Toho, I think, did ultimately own the rights.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
we need to walk away from this stinker.
Yes, we do. But we do have a bird-themed confessional.
Confessionals.
And I sincerely doubt that any of our answers to this is going to be Condorman. But the question is, now it doesn't really have to be an animal, I guess, but any
bird.
Any bird character in popular culture, if you have a favorite. Now, we didn't really specify whether it should be relegated to the animal world. It could be a black canary. Could be even
Could be
Condorman
Robin.
if you wanted
Could
to
be
go there.
Robin.
Could be Robin. So do we have any strong thoughts one way or the other?
And the first bird that I thought of was Kahar from Watership Down, which I don't know if you guys.
Jeez.
Yes,
I tried to push that memory out of my way. That
my
movie.
wife's phone case is actually a Watership Down
Yeah.
photo. So yeah, we are.
I
Very
would just be
familiar with
sad
that
every
movie.
time I answered my phone. I'd be like, "Oh."
It's one of my favorite books, and Kahar is such a great character in the book. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's probably the first bird character that I thought of off the top of my head.
No. Well, I went right for Big Bird because he's got a very special place in my heart.
Oh.
And I got to meet Carol Spinney before he passed away. But for the cool factor, I'm going with Bubo the Mechanical Owl.
Oh,
for
I
the
didn't.
Titans.
Very
Didn't
cool.
even cross my mind.
Yeah.
Cool choice, Jeff.
Obviously created by Ray Harryhausen, so you got that. But I got to give honorable mention to the seagulls in Finding Nemo. Mine.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't stick with the Buddy Hackett kick that you've been on with Little Mermaid.
Scuttle. I probably would have screwed up his name. Dinglehoffer.
I also went with the Muppets, but I'm going with Sam Eagle
Sam the Eagle.
from the Muppet Show. I think his highlight was when Alice Cooper guested.
He was very
Sir, you
stoic,
are
though.
a deviant. And he was
I never
right.
really liked him. He was a little too stick up his butt.
As an adult, I get him more
I
than I
guess.
did
Yeah,
when
I
I was
guess
a
so.
kid.
Yeah, he was the curmudgeon.
I've got the box sets of they never came out with seasons 4 and 5. I'm very sad to say, but they do have seasons 1, 2, and 3 available, and always love the Sam Eagle. Always love Sam.
And I
call.
also have those 3 box sets. And, one of the reasons why some things are cut from some of the shows and why the next 2 box sets never came out was because it's like
Right.
incredibly difficult for them to like secure licensing rights for all of the songs and stuff.
Yeah, because it's a variety show, so each episode has like 3 or 4 songs.
Well, that's why WKRP didn't come out for years, because the music, they couldn't never handle the music rights. Even my box set of Bosom Buddies does not have the original Billy Joel theme.
Really?
Because they couldn't get the licensing for that?
I guess they didn't want to pay for it. It's an alternate theme. Yes.
I'm going to hijack things right now and ask both of you what your opinion is on my original confessional question, because it's been eating at me. Who do you prefer? Donald Duck?
Oh, Donald Duck.
Or Daffy Duck?
Donald.
I've got to say, yeah, Donald, hands down.
Well, in what context? Like if I'm at a cocktail party with them? Because Daffy would be insufferable.
He would. Daffy is very annoying. Yeah, and he's spitting all over you. Well, Donald is.
No, I think he's a little ADD though. Yeah, but Donald, you never understand a word he said. And put some pants on, dude. Come on, seriously. What's up with the sailor outfit? You trolling?
He's on leave. Come on, he's ready.
He's on leave. He's on shore leave. He's on constant shore leave.
His pants are already off. Come on, he knows.
If that's the case, I'm with Donald because he sounds like a fun guy to be with.
I don't know if you guys have seen the new Mickey Mouse cartoons, the little short.
I love the new Mickey Mouse.
No, I don't, but I do watch the new DuckTales.
Well, the Mickey Mouse shorts actually make a joke about this because Mickey and Donald are going into a restaurant, right? And Mickey's traditional outfit, he has no shirt, right? He has he has shorts and he has shoes. And Donald has the shirt but no pants. So they go to a restaurant and it says like no shirt, no pants, no shoes, no service. And neither of them can go in because both of them are missing.
And then they're changing they're exchanging clothes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are great.
Yeah. Is it Scrooge that wears the spats on his feet though?
Yes.
I like the new DuckTales as well.
I do.
I
like
did a great job with that.
Yep. Ooh,
so
DuckTales.
I hesitate to ask this, but are we finally getting to our 3 bad movies next week?
Yes, I've
I've
watched 2 of the 3 already.
Stymied 2 weeks in a row for this thing.
Doesn't matter.
We'll call it Bad Movies We Love. It's Valentine's Week.
That's exactly what
Valentine's
my Instagram
week.
graphic. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Movie so bad we loved them.
We have chosen 3 bad movies near and dear to our hearts that we want to share with you. I've chosen Laser Blast. Christina has chosen Ice Pirates. And Jeff has chosen Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Yep.
This is going to be an extra large episode. I can't tell you that we're going to try to rein this one in. This could be 3 hours long.
I don't know. I don't know if we can spend a solid hour talking about Santa Claus Conquers the
Yeah, I
Martian.
don't know. I doubt it myself. But I would like to think that this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we have very finite choices when it comes to 5-bucket movies. There's only so many movies that you can give 5 buckets to before you've run out. There are infinite choices for bad movies.
Yes.
So we could just parlay the 5-bucket into a bad movie list.
Oh,
so I would
especially
like to
now
do
that
this.
I downloaded Tubi onto my television. Oh, that's a rabbit hole.
It
That
is.
is just woofa.
Yeah,
There's
and-
a plethora of
And
bad
we're
movies
hopefully,
on
you know,
there.
we're talking about the type of bad movie that you enjoy watching, not the Condorman variety of bad movie. But we would like to talk about bad movies nonetheless. So maybe we could do it like every couple of months. We could pull out an episode like this. Who knows?
Okay.
Oh yeah, you know, because I
See how it goes.
really would love to talk about the killer shrews, guys.
Ooh, the killer shrews. We could pair that up with what's your Return of Frogtown or something, Jim?
Hell Comes to Frogtown.
I saw somebody on Instagram had just posted the movie poster, and I'm like, oh, Jim talked about
That's the yeah.
Killer
So that's coming up
Shrews.
next week. Is 3 bad movies that we love. So thank you for listening again.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
As always, and we'll do it again next week.
Yes, we will.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIConfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
And-
Condorman.